arm and his life. It's our top story tonight. Good evening. I'm Joe Donald. Have the night off. This is an incredible survival story about a young man in middle school. News Channel 8's John Becker joins us now with details. John?
Joe, not even doctors used to handling every kind of emergency can believe how well 13-year-old Michael Adams reacted to an accident that would leave most anyone paralyzed in shock. He's the youngest of 7 children, but last Saturday morning, his family, neighbors, and doctors say 13-year-old Michael Adams acted with extraordinary maturity.
I thought he was remarkably pulled together for what he experienced.
By phone, a couple of his 50 or so neighbors in the tiny town of Crane told us Michael was repairing the chain motor on a huge sprinkler when his shirt got stuck in some spinning gears. That force pulled his arm inside and ripped Michael's arm off 2.5 inches above his elbow.
I probably would have just ran.
Michael picked up his arm, jumped on a four-wheeler, and driving one-handed, raced toward a neighbor's home about 1.5 miles away.
And there was no hysteria, no panic.
Jean Goff was one of a couple neighbors who rushed to help comfort Michael during the 25-minute wait for an ambulance. She says more than anything, he was upset at himself, mad he wouldn't be able to help his dad hay this summer, and worried about how his family would pay the medical bills.
I heard him say that to his parents when they came in, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And of course, they're so happy to see that he's in as good a shape as he is, that's the last thing on their mind.
Doctors here say neighbors did all the right things to help save Michael's arm. They put it on ice. But first, they put it in a towel and wrapped it in a plastic bag to help preserve the skin tissue.
Every once in a while you have a call that everything works perfectly, and this was one of them.
Ed McGee works on the ambulance that drove Michael to a local hospital and on to a Life Flight plane that flew him to OHSU Hospital in Portland.
Just hope he doesn't go into shock and try to keep him from going into shock in transport, and that was my biggest concern.
OHSU doctors also credit McGee for keeping Michael alert, calm, and in good spirits.
To see him, tell him we're thinking of him.
Doctors who did see Michael today reattached part of his tricep. There's a good chance that within a few years, after at least 8 to 10 more surgeries, he could regain all the use of his arm and hand, Joe.
And John, doctors say his age might actually help his recovery, right?
Absolutely. They say the younger you are, the better chances you have at making a full recovery, so he's got one. And his brother told me today he is one tough farm boy.
Sounds like it. He could be going home next week.
Yeah, exactly.
John Becker, it's an amazing story. Thanks very much.
The beginning of the show is people who have survived unbelievable tragedies, and it's a miracle that they're here. This next segment's about children. The story I'm about to tell you sends chills down my spine every time I think about it. Michael Adams was working on his parents' farm when he was in a terrible accident. Now, you're not going to believe what happened to this young man and what he had to do to save his own life. Watch. Well, a few months ago, you have to remember, it's just a few months ago. 13-year-old Michael Adams was in a tragic accident. He was working on his neighbor's farm. Now, what happened was that Michael got sucked into a piece of machinery, causing him to have his arm ripped off. Now, the amazing story about all of this is not how Michael saved his arm, but what he had to endure to save his life. Please, everybody, welcome a really courageous young man, Michael Adams.
I was reaching over the gears to get to the lever to push it forward, and I wasn't really paying attention because it was morning and I was really sleepy. And so I pushed it forward, and it was going, and the bottom of my sleeve right here, it got caught, and it just started pulling me through, and I was hitting the thing and bashing it, and I was just trying to get it to turn off, and it wouldn't turn off, so it just pulled it right through.
Pulled your arm right through with the jacket and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then, where is your arm? Where does it end up?
On the ground.
And you're looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do?
Well, I kind of figured out what had happened, and I picked up my arm and I ran about.
This is where the shivers come down. I mean,
I picked it up and I ran about 100 yards to a ATV that I had used to ride around on, and I took off, and I was having to steer like this, so
you had to have your, and as you were going along, and an ATV goes up and down over ground, what happened?
I couldn't turn a corner, and it just rolled over.
So the ATV rolls over. And now when your ATV rolls over, your arm falls on the ground again.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, tell us what happened then.
I found my arm, and I ran about a quarter of a mile to our neighbor's house, Kathy Ann Miller, and thankfully she was home, and she was still in bed. I woke her up, but that's okay.
I think so, Michael, in a case like this, you have that right to wake her up.
So I got her up, and she kind of looked out, and I was so dusty from rolling around in the dirt that she didn't know who I was. And so she finally figured it out, and so she laid me down on the floor, and she kept me calm, and
Called the ambulance, of course.
yeah, they got me all stabilized, and they took me to the airport, and I went by fixed wing to Hillsboro, and from Hillsboro I went by helicopter to OHSU, and
That was in Portland.
and there they reattached it.
Right. Do they think you're going to be able to do everything?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that great? It's just... Now, there's one sport you were playing. What was your favorite sport before all this happened?
Football.
Football. You can't play football right now. Huh?
No.
For 1 year.
Now to a courageous story that touched people all around the world.
It's about a boy working on a farm in eastern Oregon and the accident that changed his life. News Channel 8's John Becker is here now with a story. John?
Joe Carroll, that accident cost Michael Adams his right arm. The same arm he used to write his name and throw a football. We met Michael recently at his family farm in Crane. He talked to us about his accident, his courageous reaction to it, and his remarkable recovery.
Here, guys. Here, take the bottom chunk.
Michael Adams' courage has attracted hundreds of admirers.
What are you all nervous about? Pick one of these and chew it. It'll turn your spit green.
But Michael can't rest on his reputation. He has work to do.
You want some?
Feed his horses, chickens,
They got out this morning, so I had to...
and his dog Doug.
Wait some food. Yum, 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 yum.
But opening this gearbox
They're pretty strong little things.
reminds Michael of the chore that changed his life.
On the one that I learned, you had to run it from this side, and you had to reach over here to get to the gear to move it forward.
Those gears turn wagon-sized wheels that move a line of sprinklers across farm fields to water crops.
I was kind of tired, and so I wasn't paying much attention.
But it's something he'd done more than 1,000 times, never considering what would happen next.
These gears right here caught my coat right there, and it just,
Michael says it happened slowly and doesn't recall feeling any pain.
all I remember was hot.
It took between 20 and 30 seconds
Yeah.
for these metal teeth to tear off his right arm just below the shoulder.
Got back, and I saw it there, and so I grabbed it, and I ran, 100 yards, whatever, and got on the four-wheeler, and
Michael not only had to ride a four-wheeler like this one with one hand, he had to drive with his left arm stretched across the body to reach the throttle, all while clutching his right arm between his legs. He made it about a quarter of a mile down this road.
and the four-wheeler flipped, and I don't know how many times it rolled, but quite a few.
He got up, ran to a nearby shed, and found another four-wheeler.
When I got about a mile and a half, I wrecked a second four-wheeler, and I jumped back up and picked up my arm, and I ran to Kathy Ann's house.
I just opened the door, and he stood there, and then he said, "I've cut my arm off." Took it very calmly.
Kathy Ann Miller first called 911, then her neighbors. They brought ice to preserve his arm, first wrapping it in a towel, then a plastic bag to protect the tissue. In the meantime,
His mom was in one field
Kathy Ann raced to find Michael's mom and dad.
And I felt like I'd been kicked by a horse because immediately all the things that I knew he wanted to do in his life, you know, had been changed in a moment.
It was hard.
Michael wouldn't stop apologizing when he saw his mom and dad.
And I was afraid that we wouldn't be able to pay off the medical bills. We just told him that we loved him, and it was okay. I'm sorry. And I know he was very worried about how we felt. And we, you know, I knew it was going to be hard for us.
Wasting no time, rescuers flew Michael to Portland, and within 3 hours, OHSU doctors were reattaching his arm.
Let's slip this off and see.
6 months later, Michael's regaining some range of motion
Still feels pretty weak that way, huh?
and some feeling in his arm.
I would bet within another 2 to 3 months that those nerves will grow from here down to about here.
I can kind of feel.
That's when Michael should start feeling his fingers, thanks to nerves doctors pulled from his legs.
You're a good healer.
And 2 years from now, Michael's right arm, hand, and fingers may all be fairly functional.
I think you're doing great. Good deal. I think that certainly his
Good to see you.
toughness and presence of mind to save his arm and save his life was the beginning of the miracle, and our part is just a small part because we really just put things back together, and then they have to heal.
Heal he has.
When he showed us the scars on his leg, and I'm just in here.
Not only is he back at the lunch table with his buddies,
Yo quiero Taco Bell. Yeah, it's kind of boring. These are main entertainment. 216.
his teacher says Michael's coping amazingly well in the classroom.
Michael always got frustrated really easily, and I thought this is going to be really, really difficult. You're doing it right.
But he's typing almost as fast with one hand as he did with two.
Last week I got 33 words per minute.
He ties his shoes left-handed.
Quite a bit slower.
I think his handwriting is almost as good, too.
Even stapling's not a problem. He simply uses his head.
Doesn't hurt your head?
No, well, sort of.
Gym class means real pain. A half hour of arm exercises each day. But it also comes with benefits,
He's done a good job.
like the chance to hold hands with a high school senior.
I told him, I said, Michael, I think you're enjoying this therapy just a little bit too much. And he turned to me and he said, oh, Mr. Sheets, I just wish I could feel it when she holds my hand.
Another reward comes when he waltzes on the court. He frustrates defenders with quick assists, sneaky left-handed steals, and he'll even take a hard fall for the team.
Oh, man.
Michael's toughness over the last 6 months amazes his teachers.
And I think more than anything, I've realized just how determined one little boy can be.
But his spirit hasn't just touched his teachers, neighbors, and parents.
It really made me feel good. Dear Michael, I had to write you to tell you how much of a strong, courageous young man you are.
And I have a feeling that you are growing up in a family filled with love and a faith in God.
Please get well soon.
Hundreds of people from places like New York,
Staten Island, New York.
Ohio, Minnesota, even Germany have sent him letters.
It was awesome.
But on a drive out to reflect on the last 6 months, Michael says he's embarrassed by all the attention.
Yeah.
He doesn't consider his accident and recovery all that special.
When I was things, I think it happened and you can't change it, so just keep going.
Such a simple philosophy from the boy who's been through so much.
Michael says so far the hardest part of his recovery was sitting on the sidelines and watching his team play football. This fall, he plans to be on that field.
Junge von ganz Amerika. Der 13-jährige Michael Adams gerät mit seinem rechten Arm in die Zahnräder einer Bewässerungsmaschine. Das Schreckliche passiert, Michaels Arm wird abgetrennt. Doch trotz des Entsetzens und der furchtbaren Schmerzen macht der tapfere Michael etwas ganz und gar Unglaubliches.
Dass der 13-jährige Michael Adams aus Oregon heute wieder Saltos machen kann, grenzt an ein Wunder. Nur seine Armschlinge und seine tiefen Narben erinnern an den furchtbaren Unfall, den er vor 6 Monaten hatte. Diese Feldmaschine hat ihm den rechten Arm abgerissen. Mein Arm ist wieder ganz normal, nur dass ich noch kein Gefühl darin habe. Aber es ist erstaunlich, was ich mit diesem Arm alles machen kann. Michael arbeitet an dieser Bewässerungsmaschine auf dem Feld. Ich habe nicht richtig aufgepasst, weil ich das schon so oft gemacht habe. Als ich mich über die Maschine legte, ist mein Ärmel runtergerutscht und dann zwischen die Zahnräder geraten. Ich konnte mich nicht mehr befreien. Die Maschine hat meinen Ärmel genau betrachtet. Ich habe ihn gepackt und bin dann die 100 Meter zu meinem Traktor gerannt. Michael denkt nicht lange nach, er weiß nur, er braucht Hilfe. Er klemmt sich seinen abgetrennten Arm zwischen die Beine und rast los. Nach 4 Kilometern verliert er die Balance. Beim Sommer und es lag viel Staub auf der Erde. Und da musste ich meinen Arm auf dem Boden auch noch suchen. Und als ich ihn gefunden habe, bin ich losgerannt. Michael läuft die letzten Meter zu Fuß. Fast besinnungslos vor Schmerz klopft er am nächsten Haus. Als niemand öffnet, stürzt er hinein, weg die schlafenden Bewohner. Ich habe Michael da am Herd stehen sehen. Und er war so voller Dreck, dass ich nicht wusste, ob er es tatsächlich ist. Und er hatte seinen Arm in der Hand. Nach dem ersten Schock setzt sie Michael erst einmal auf einen Stuhl und ruft den Not, ein Handtuch gewickelt und in einen Sektkühler getan. Dann sind sie rüber zur Schule und haben von der Eismaschine Eis geholt. Danach haben sie den Arm mit dem Eis in eine Plastiktüte gepackt. Eine halbe Stunde dauert es, dann trifft der Notarzt-Hubschrauber ein. Im Krankenhaus kümmert sich der Chirurg Dr. Müller sofort um Michael. Während er die Operation vorbereitet, versuchen seine Kollegen, den Arm weiter kühl zu halten. In dem Moment, wo ein Körperteil abgetrennt wird, beginnt es abzusterben. Nach ungefähr 6 Stunden sind die Muskeln tot und der Arm letztendlich gerettet. Ansonsten hätte man ihn nur noch wegwerfen können. Zuerst einmal werden die Knochen von Michaels Arm mit einer Metallschiene verbunden. Dann werden Nerven, Venen und Haut zusammengeflickt. Um meinen Arm zu retten, haben sie die Nerven aus meinen beiden Beinen genommen. Die Narben gehen jetzt bis zum Knie. Michael spielt zwar bereits wieder Basketball, allerdings noch einarmig. Bis die Nerven in seinem angenähten Arm wieder funktionieren, dauert es nämlich noch mindestens ein Jahr. So hat sich Michael schon mal angewöhnt, sein Alltagsleben noch eine Zeit lang einarmig zu bewältigen. Das Schuhebinden beherrscht er bereits mit links. Er weiß, manches ist noch schwierig, aber seinen Optimismus verliert er nicht. Und den Traum vom Sport hat er behalten. Hockey spielen ist im Moment noch schwierig und natürlich Football, aber ich werde wieder Football spielen.
Alle Achtung, ein couragierter junger Mann. Gute Besserung auch von uns.
Complete results from Decision 2000. Just log on to our website, kgw.com.
Tonight, the incredible story of an Oregon teenager who lost his arm in a farming accident. We first introduced you to 14-year-old Michael Adams last February, and you won't believe how far he's come since then. Here again is News Channel 8's John Becker.
Michael Adams and his teammates
They're all pumped up, ready to go.
suit up for one of their biggest games.
They're nervous.
But aside from looking for their first win, much of the focus is on Michael.
I have this really sick stomach.
His mom came early to see warm-ups.
Run!
No. He's really up for it.
Run! Run the 6.
She watches her son catch pass
Good job, guys!
after pass.
That wasn't bad at all.
A feat few fans expected to see from Michael this year.
He's quite an amazing kid.
I have that much respect for the boy. Right in the middle. Can't imagine a young fellow with such a super attitude.
Minutes before kickoff,
Let's go, Crane.
fans watched an assistant coach
I want him to make the tackle.
add a little cushion to Michael's right arm.
Okay. When he handed us his arm, I didn't think he'd ever use it again.
A few months ago,
They're pretty strong little things.
Michael showed us what happened.
These gears right here caught my coat right there, and it just,
Those gears move sprinkler lines across farm fields to water crops. It took between 20 and 30 seconds for those metal teeth to tear off his right arm just below the shoulder.
All I remember is hot.
But he picked up his arm and went for help.
Grabbed it,
Michael not only had to ride a four-wheeler like this one with one hand, he had to drive with his left arm stretched across his body to reach the throttle, all while clutching his right arm between his legs. He wrecked twice, then ran the rest of the way to a neighbor's home.
I just opened the door, and he stood there, and then he said, "I've cut my arm off." Took it very calmly.
And I felt like I'd been kicked by a horse. Because immediately all the things I knew he wanted to do in his life, you know, had been changed in a moment.
But within 3 hours, Michael was on the operating table and doctors were reattaching his arm.
I understand that you're playing football and whatnot. How's that going?
Pretty fine.
Now, a little more than a year after his accident, Michael's doctor
Got my hand? Pull, 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 pull.
is amazed.
Great. Yeah, you're starting to get some muscle back there. I think it's great.
Nerves taken from Michael's legs are not only growing in his arm.
You've grown new nerve from here all the way down to here since last November.
Those nerves are growing at a record rate.
I have to see the fingers move one more time. Pull. Pull.
Doctors weren't sure Michael would ever move his fingers.
And just this one.
Now, he's even holding things in his hand.
Can you just hold on to that with your hand? His good attitude about life has made all the difference in the world